Good morning, watch nerds, ladies and gentlemen, and those who aren't quite sure. Now, it wasn't long ago I hadn't even heard of the brand Maen, and to this day I'm still not quite sure of the correct pronunciation. It could be Maen, it could be Maen, or it could be Maen. Now, having recently bought and reviewed the Greenwich, I refer to the brand as Maen, so I'm sticking with that until I know better. Now, Maen are a Swedish brand, owned by a couple of Dutch guys, but the watches are Swiss made, and the brand's focus is on New York. How very diverse. I very recently sold my Zelos Horizons 39, which in my opinion is possibly the best diver Zelos ever made, but I was never a fan of the gilt indices, so I eventually flipped it. As we speak, it's on the way to the good old USA. Now, this left a space in my watch box, and what I really wanted was a nice orange diver in a 38 or 39mm. Guess what? All I could find was a Seiko 5 Midi, which in my opinion is underspec'd and overpriced. Of course, if you know of such a watch, please let me know in the comments below. I already knew how well the Maen Greenwich GMT 38mm fitted my fairly slim wrist, so when this good used Hudson appeared on eBay, I thought I'd have to give it a try. A bit of haggling, and a few days later, Mr. Postie had delivered it to my door. So on with the review. And welcome to my unpaid and unsponsored review of the Maen Hudson Mark III. And here we have the packaging. It's not fantastically premium. There's a cardboard outer box and two cardboard inner boxes. One has a cushion for the watch and the other one has the 2-year warranty card. Oh, I should have mentioned that I think the packaging's been updated for the Mark IV. Now, as usual, let's have a look at the dimensions. The case is a compact 38mm. The depth is just 12.5mm, including the dome sapphire crystal with AR coating. The lug width is 20mm, and the lug to lug is a nice 46mm. Now, I don't expect all dive watches to be of this size, but it does surprise me that there aren't more options. The earlier Mark IIIs had the STP 111 movement inside, but this being one of the later ones was given the Ronda R150. Both movements are simply Swiss-made clones of the ETA 2824-2. It ticks away at 28,800 beats per hour, hacks, hand winds, and it's got a power reserve of about 40 hours, which is a little more than the ETA. These are great workhorses, can be amazingly accurate if regulated correctly, and have got very good positional variance. Let's see what the time grapher thinks of this one. There we are, this all looks very healthy. It says it's running at plus 7 seconds a day, a reasonable amplitude although the watch isn't fully wound, and a very good beat error of 0.1. I can tell you in reality the watch is actually running at about plus 5 seconds a day. That makes me happy. The chunky 7mm crown screws into aid the watch's 150 metres of claim water resistance. It's well known, signed, and the engagement is very good. It's worth noting though that the non-dated version has a ghost position, which isn't something that bothers me in the least, but I know there are people who lose sleep over such matters. Now, if you decide to buy a new version 4, you've got 4 dial options. The black no date like this one, a black dated one with a few red accents added in, a dark blue one and grey one, both also with date windows. The dial on this black one has got a slight sheen. There's a printed minute track on the chapter ring, whilst the simple straight indices and hands are filled with C1 lume. Under the 12 o'clock it simply reads Maen, and that's in the brand's bespoke font, and over the 6 o'clock it reads Automatic and Hudson in red. As far as the lume goes, it's reasonable but not fantastic. I suppose it's rare to find great looms on vintage style dials, but all the same, let's have a look at it. The case is nice and slim, and as stated when giving you the dimensions, is only 12.5mm deep including the crystal. In actual fact, it looks even slimmer. It's nicely satin brushed on the tops of the lugs, has well polished sides, and it's got a highly polished chamfer. Now, the compact lug to lug ensures it sits really well on the wrist. The case back, like the front crystal, is also sapphire, However, I really don't see the point of an exhibition case back on a diver. It doesn't offend me either. Unusually it can be removed with either a traditional case back remover or one of those used for a Rolex, etc. The bezel is a painted steel, whilst I believe the Mark IV is ceramic. To be honest, I think the steel version suits the vintage vibe of the watch, albeit it's not going to be very durable. For that reason I don't think this watch would make a great beater. The action is just about perfect with no back play or wobble. I'm not sure if it aligns perfectly or it could be very slightly to the left. Anyway, the bezel's excellent. Let's have a listen to it. Now the 5-link bracelet is certainly one of the watch's highlights. As you can see, it's a mixture of fine brushing and polishing. The solid end links fit well to the case, however they don't have any quick release spring bars and there aren't any drilled lugs either. The articulation is excellent, making the watch very comfortable, and there are screw pins for easy adjustment. Now it tapers down from 20mm to 16mm, then back up to 17mm for the clasp. The clasp is a tad disappointing though. It's nice that it's half milled, but it's only got 2 micro adjustments, and in my opinion 3 should be a minimum. Like the bracelet though, it's brushed and it's partly polished, and it's signed with the Maen logo. As far as the cost goes, it's a little bit complicated, as this is the Mark III and they're now producing the Mark IV. That watch is €559, which is $600 or £480. Of course, you then need to factor in any duty, in which case if you live in the UK it's going to cost you about £576. Now as a matter of interest, there is a quartz version which is going to be a fair bit cheaper. Now that means this watch isn't a budget timepiece, but remember it's Swiss made with a Swiss movement, so you will struggle to find a cheaper comparison. I was lucky enough to find this good used one on eBay and negotiated a price of £325, which I consider quite reasonable. So in summary, what do I think? Already owning the Maen Granite, I had a pretty good idea what to expect, and that's an aesthetically stunning watch but with a few corners cut. The loom could be better, the clasp could be a lot better, and I wish they brushed the side of the case. In fact, I think they have on the version 4. The thing I like most about the watch is its dimensions and the way it wears on the wrist. I know I said it earlier, whilst I don't expect all dive watches to be this size, it amazes me there aren't more. Although simple, the watch looks great. The bracelet is gorgeous, the bezel is perfect in keeping with the vintage vibe, and the movement is also very good. Yes, I would strongly recommend one of these, especially if you have the chance to pick up a good used one. To be honest, I think it's actually nicer than the version 4, but that of course is subjective. Now that brings me to the end of this review, so if you've enjoyed it please click on the like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, leave your comments below, but most importantly, enjoy the rest of your day.